Welcome to the first video of the second channel for 2024. Now, mostly this is going to be about a trip I took to the Northwest Computer Museum, but before we get into that, I'd just like to say a quick thank you for everyone who's subscribed to the main channel. Amazingly, there's 70,000 of you now. Who knew that was going to be a thing? Now, that only happened a day or two ago as of the time of recording this. In fact, if you want to know where this fits in relative to the main channel, it's the day I'm uploading the video on OS2 that'll go live tomorrow. So, on to the main topic of the video, the Northwest Computer Museum. Now, if it's a computer museum you've not heard of, do not worry, it only appeared about June last year. So, it was only about 6 months old when I went to go visit it. In that period between Christmas and New Year where you don't have too much to do, and you really need to find a way to entertain your children that does not involve them trashing your house. So, I threw both kids in the car and we headed over to Lee, which is, let's say, near Manchester. And I was happy to discover that the kids did indeed enjoy going. The older one maybe a bit more than the younger one, as it's much more suited for his age. So, when you arrive, you'll find a big old-fashioned mill that's been converted into a number of units. And after a fair few stairs and corridors, you will eventually find your way to the entrance of the Computer Museum, with this little Sinclair C5 stood in the doorway. And with the sounds of, "Dad, are we nearly there yet?" echoing down the corridors, you'll find yourself in the little reception area that's kind of food kiosk, cafe, small retro item shop, all sort of rolled into one, where you can buy your tickets and then enter the, well, Aladdin's cave of a museum. Now, this is where we should probably get onto the style of the museum. Some museums are very, all our items are precious and behind glass, don't touch anything. And some museums are, here, look at our massive pile of stuff. Yeah, play with whatever you want. Have fun. This is at the piles of fun end of the market. Now, you may be able to tell from the way I just explained that I may have a preference here, and this museum is closer to it. Also, if you're taking your kids somewhere, the look, don't touch style of museum, not child-friendly, is it? So let's take you on a quick virtual tour around the place. Now, as you can see, it's cut up into various areas, and we're going to go over the, well, I think it's the main area. It's the biggest one, certainly, to start with. Now, as you can see, the tables around the outside of this room, they've got various machines set up and working that you can have a play with. So it kind of starts with your 70s and 80s machines. And as we move around the tables, time sort of progresses as we start getting into the 80s and towards the very end, even later stuff. But you can also see there's this table in the middle that's kind of like storage, but also display. And there's some incredibly interesting stuff in there you would not normally get to see at that many museums. For example, we have a TI-99, but with the external expansion cabinet type thing. That means you didn't end up with 16 foot of machine. There are also some machines set up and working that you don't commonly see, like the Sirius or Victor 9000, as well as stuff you'd expect to see, like you've got your various games consoles from the likes of Sega. There's even a Jag. Once you've gone round that section, you've got a kind of little mini arcade room that's got some arcade machines there, including Afterburner, always fun. And when we were there was also some consoles set up next to the entrance of that thing, including a CD32. There's a classroom type area that, unsurprisingly, has a lot of BBCs in it. And there's a VR room that we didn't really get a chance to try because the headsets tend to be a bit larger than my children's heads. We also have the cafe area. That's not just a cafe. The guy who runs the place has a few activities for kids. There's a couple of Minecraft machines in there, and also a library of lots of interesting computer magazines. And also, there's a little shop where you can buy lots of little retro items like floppy disk connectors, small little components, Xbox 360s. Yes, I did buy one. And of course, if you've come with your kids, more importantly, it sells food. If you've got kids, you'll know how important it is to never take them more than 30 seconds away from food or drink. So, this is an incredibly welcome addition to a museum, as far as I'm concerned anyway. And also, their cheese toasties are really good, just FYI. While we were there, we got treated to an impromptu demonstration of their fire evacuation process. Don't worry, there wasn't really a fire. None of the computers were harmed. But I can tell you, in the event of a fire, the building's quite safe. The fire evacuation process works. I can also tell you that the car park gets a little full of puddles that your children will want to jump in. Anyway, I'm returning to the museum and finally getting to finish eating my cheese toastie. Again, good cheese toastie. I discovered my tea had indeed got a little bit cold, so I got to have a nice chat with the guy who runs the place while I was getting my replacement tea. Now, none of you will probably be that surprised to discover that this museum was established out of the founder's personal computer collection. Now, personally, I love this kind of museum, where one person wants to share their collection and enthusiasm with the rest of the world. Now, it does help if that person happens to be quite friendly and likes talking to people while he happens to make tea and toasties. But what I love about this style of museum is it's there so you can experience the systems, try them out, let your kids try them out in a way that doesn't involve you keep rewiring new systems into the TV every time they want to change game. Because he's trying to run the museum as well, here's a great computer collection you get to play with. That experience is the focus of the museum. It's not come from an academic background where it's desperately trying to teach you computer history and science. Sure, you're going to learn some of that stuff, even if it's by accident. But I think if your purpose is to learn about the history of computing or various types of technology, I'm not sure a museum is the best venue to do that in. There's only so much that you can learn from an information display next to a computer. I think the likes of books and I'd also like to think YouTube videos, well I would, wouldn't I, are better at doing that than just walking around a museum. If there was a guide stood next to each computer to explain it all to you, well, maybe that would help more. But no museum staff to that level. What you want to get out of a museum is something very different, in my opinion at least. It's the experience of the machine, trying it, using it, getting your hands on it, seeing how large or small it is. These are the things you don't get from a YouTube video or a textbook, or a video that's basically a textbook set to jazz music. And I think that's where the guy who runs this museum really just, gets it. He's created a place where you get to just experience the machines, have fun, and chat to other people who, like this sort of stuff too. This is the sort of museum I really enjoy going to visit. And I'm hopefully going to get to go to another museum like this later on in the year, assuming that it opens. Come on, Pete and Tony, invite me to come cover the launch event. Now, it looks like he has enough stuff here to open at least another 2 or 3 museums. As you'll notice, under almost every single table and above every cupboard, there is yet more machines that are not out there on display or in use. And while we were chatting, he did sort of mention that he would like one day to maybe acquire a bit more space in the building. So if you live, within driving distance of the northwest of England and fancy a nice fun day out in a place that, just really gets this retro computing thing, or if you're just a cheese toasty aficionado, then the Northwest Computer Museum, definitely worth going to. You can even take your kids. Now, just before I end this video, I'd like to say a huge thanks to ctrl-alt-rees, as the SD card I recorded a lot of my footage on, it died. So I was only able to get some of the footage back, and not enough to make a whole video with. Luckily, it turns out Reese went to the museum about 6 months before I did, and still happened to have the footage from the video that he made about it. So some of the chunks of footage you've seen here are from Reese's video, as he was kind enough to let me make use of it. Cheers, Reese.